Hey guys, the aim of this video is to explain a little bit about Chinese Android head units and why there's so much controversy and mixed opinions about them. Hopefully the information that you hear from me today will help you make an informed decision as to whether or not they are right for you. Don't worry, this is not a sponsored video and there's no hidden agenda here, but hopefully you'll be able to take some information from this video which will ultimately help you decide whether or not an Android head unit is for you. So here's some questions that I'm going to be answering in this video. What is Android and why do I want it in my car? Why have I heard that Chinese head units are poor quality? Why don't the big brands like Pioneer, Kenwood, JVC, etc. make head units that run the Android operating system? And then I'm going to show you how to choose a great Android head unit by touching on things like the hardware specification, the sound quality, the vehicle integration, and other features. One of the most upgraded parts of any car is the car head unit, the radio. And the reason for this is because the technology in-car entertainment is evolving so quickly that it's the easiest thing to replace to get the latest features. So when you're looking to upgrade your head unit in your car, you might default to the big known brands that have been doing them for years, and that's understandable. But what you should consider as well is that there's a lot of other options that you can choose which will give you many more features for a much better price than what the big brands can offer. So let's get into it. What is Android and why should you care? Why do you want it in your car? Well, Android is the most used mobile operating system in the world. Phones, tablets, Chromebooks, even fridges and TVs have Android built into them. And the reason for that is because the Android operating system offers almost unlimited possibilities for functionality, much more than what the big brand radios operating systems could do. So why have you heard that Chinese head units are poor quality? The reason for all of that is because it is a fact that there are some really bad, poor quality Android head units available to buy online at the moment. But anyone suggesting that all Chinese Android head units are trash is just completely wrong. That would be a little bit like me saying that all American cars are trash because Pontiac made the Aztec. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that there's many companies that make these Android head units. Some of them have exceptional high standards of quality, and some of them have absolutely no quality control whatsoever. So I deal with Android head units pretty much all the time, and I can tell you if you go for a trusted brand of Android head unit, then you really can't go wrong. And the reason for that is because they have excellent quality control. They don't want bad press, so anything that you choose from their lineup of products is going to result in you being happy. But that's why brand is important. If you go for something like Teyes, Idoing, Dasaita, Idoing, Xtrons, Atoto, these are big Android head unit brands and they care about their reputation. When you go to their website, you don't really need to look at the specifications to make sure that you get something good, because they will only sell you head units which have a good specification. Some of these brands even sell on Amazon and other online retailers, which give you the added protection of their retailer warranty. But this list of brands is not exhaustive. There's loads more companies online which offer a very, very good quality. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that there is plenty of Android head unit manufacturers that actually do care about their products and the quality that goes into them. And a little bit later in this video, I'm going to show you how to recognize an excellent Android head unit and how to recognize a lemon. So the other thing that I get asked all the time is why do Kenwood, JVC, Pioneer, etc., all the big brands not use the Android operating system on their units? Well, that's for a magnitude of reasons which I'll go into now. So the first thing is the licensing fees. Now, the Android operating system is open source, which means that Google make Android free for any manufacturers to use as they wish to install on their products and allow them to make their own variation of Android and make it look all pretty. But what isn't free is Google Play services. So what that includes is Google Play Store, Gmail, Google Maps, etc. These are obviously apps that are frequently used by consumers, and so having an Android head unit without the Google Play services isn't going to be great. But the licensing fee for Google Play services over hundreds of thousands of units, which the big brands would knock out, is going to come to the very high tens of thousands of dollars. So that's the first thing. The other thing is the cost of manufacture. If you consider the hardware specifications of something like a Pioneer or a Kenwood is actually very low, and their profit margin is very high as a result. These big brands focus a lot on the amplifier built into the units and not so much on the hardware specification because they don't need to. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto stream from the phone that you're using, so it's using your phone's processing power to run all the apps, and the radio and other audio functionality of the units simply don't need any power. So it's very cheap to manufacture the big brand head units, and they still sell them for an enormous amount of money. The thing with Android-based head units is that on top of giving you all the basic stuff that you get with the big brand units, they also allow you complete freedom to install any apps that you want. But this comes at a cost, because applications on the marketplace are designed for very powerful phones and tablets, etc. So for them to function properly on an Android head unit, the Android head unit also needs to have a very good processor and a good amount of RAM to be able to run these applications and to multitask. And that costs money. So the profit margin on an Android-based head unit is actually significantly lower than the big brand units, but they are significantly more powerful. So if the really big brands of head units wanted to install the Android operating system, they would have to give their head units a significant upgrade of hardware specifications, which will effectively either eat into their profit margin or cause them to be ridiculously expensive. And the third reason that the big brand head units don't install the Android operating system is because they simply don't need to. With the introduction of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, it allows users to actually access apps for navigation and music playback by streaming these apps from their phone. A lot of people are not interested in having the additional benefit of having the customizability or video playback and the other items that you get with an Android-based head unit. Right, let me tell you now what to look for to make sure that you get a good Android head unit. You need to remember that Android head units are computers. So think about it this way. You're walking into Best Buy or Currys and you're presented with all these shiny new laptops. But some of these laptops have a Celeron processor, which is horrendously slow. And some of these laptops have an i7 processor, which is blisteringly fast. So rather than just considering whether or not these laptops are going to fit into your laptop bag, you also need to consider the hardware specifications, because you're ultimately going to have to live with this purchase and you want to make sure that it's up to standard for a significant amount of time. So you need to look at the CPU. This is the main speed of the unit. At the moment, the 1.8 GHz octa-core CPUs made by ARM are the best ones to look out for, along with the Rockchip PX6 CPUs. As of November 2021. You'll find these in the highest spec head units. The PX5 is still fairly fast and can be found in the mid-range units. Then you need to look at the RAM, the memory. These help the units to multitask quickly. The best units will have 4 or 6 gigabytes of RAM, but you can still buy a decent head unit with as little as 2 gigabytes of RAM. But let me warn you, if you buy an Android head unit with less than 2 gigabytes of RAM, well, you're going to have a bad time. Then you have the screen. Now obviously there are different screen sizes available, ranging from the standard 7-inch that you would find for a doubled-in unit all the way up to 14 inches. But on top of the screen size, you need to consider the screen resolution. Now there's a common misperception that you should look for the highest resolution possible, and that is not true. Whilst it's true that a higher resolution is going to give you a sharper image, it also has a byproduct, which means that the text and the icons on the screen are going to appear much smaller. And this is to do with the DPI settings of the unit. So generally speaking, 600p is sufficient for an Android head unit. 720p is actually the best resolution that you should be looking at for an Android head unit, but you can get ones that go up to 1080p or even higher. Okay, let's talk about sound quality. What you're looking for is DSP, which stands for Digital Signal Processing. This is a chip that's installed inside the head unit, which filters the audio and gives you lots of control over different aspects of the sound. They will sound awesome. If you're really into your car audio, there's a couple of variations of DSP which go way beyond allowing you to modify a few equalizer frequency bands. You can also set delays for specific speakers, individually control the speakers, apply different audio modes, etc. And then getting a bit more technical for you car audio buffs, the standard speaker outputs for the head units on board amp are generally 50 watts per channel. The pre-outs are normally 2 volts per channel. If you have aftermarket amps, you can argue that the high-end big brands have 5 volt pre-outs, which is true. But the best Android head units have optical and coax for diff digital connections for external amps, and this will provide a much crisper, cleaner signal to your amp than the 5 volt pre-outs, provided of course you have a digital amp. And then there's vehicle integration. Some brands design their head units completely around specific vehicles. And what I mean by that is, instead of making standard single and double DIN head units, they actually make head units which are designed for specific vehicles. And that is like an exact replacement for what you have in the car, making them look factory. But it goes further than that. Some Android head units allow you to control intricate aspects of your vehicle features, such as the climate control or your heated seats, etc., from the head unit. And that's because they're integrating into the car's CANbus network. CANbus stands for Controller Area Network Bus, and it's the network in your car which allows it to communicate from one feature to another. And for a long time, we've been using the CANbus for aftermarket audio to allow the steering wheel controls to control the head units. But what if you have a more modern car which has a large screen on the dashboard already from factory, which just doesn't have the features that you want? Well, swapping it out might not be that simple, because that screen might control your climate control or your heated seats or have other features of the car, which means that if you remove it, you'd lose them. But some Android head units are built to be integrated into your car's CANbus network. And that means that they can read lots of data from within your car and present them to you on the screen. So that means that you can have the ability to control things like climate controls and heated seats, etc. And that allows for some cool features like visualizing your reverse sensors to see how far you are away from something, along with obviously the reverse camera, showing you whether or not any of the doors are open and which ones they are, and other cool stuff. Right, so finally let's talk about the features of the Android head units. Obviously they all come with an FM receiver for radio, but they are also all compatible with DAB. You will need to buy one of these. It's a USB DAB stick. They're about 15 quid on eBay. You just plug it into the USB and install the app, and then you have all of your DAB radio channels. Obviously it's Android, so you can install Spotify or Amazon Music or Deezer, and you can download your tracks onto the Android head unit for offline use. So you don't need to stream, you can literally just download this music through the app, have it in your car ready to go immediately without the need to stream. Same with navigation. You can download your maps to Google Maps or TomTom or whatever, and you have offline navigation in your car without the need to stream any data. Obviously though, if you do have the unit online, you're going to get other live stuff like traffic and roadworks and speed cameras, etc. So obviously, because you're not streaming any data, it can work completely independent of your mobile phone. But then you can get really cool upgrades for your car, such as tire pressure monitoring. You can view live data from your engine using an ODB2 reader. You can use high definition reverse cameras. You can add steering wheel controls if you don't have them for factory, which is really cool for the older cars. And then of course you have wired and wireless Apple CarPlay. Although if you have an Android head unit, I wouldn't use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, because you have a much better system already installed in your car. Remember that Android Auto and Apple CarPlay was designed for the big brand units, because they do not have the functionality that you have with a proper Android unit. I hope this video was useful to you and I answered some of your questions. If I missed anything, please feel free to use the comments section to ask, and I will do my best to answer them for you. I would of course very much appreciate it if you would like my video, and of course subscribe to my channel if you like this kind of content. I do review Android head units quite often.